Hi, you are watching Migraine International Patient's Perspective, a show about migraines and the people that have them. And today's topic is the pain scale, the 1 through 10 scale that describes the levels of pain that migraine sufferers go through. And we'll go through that in just a few moments. Today, we were supposed to have a guest with us to go over the pain scale with us. That guest was unable to attend the show, so we're going to go through that without them. Um, and before we go into that, we are going to do our trigger of the day, and or the trigger of the week rather, and then we'll get into our topic. Um, the trigger of the week um, is smells. Now, for most people, smells can be annoying and things like that, but for migraine sufferers, there are certain things that can lead us into migraines. And one of those things is strong smells. I know that since I was a child, particularly when my mother would take us to church, she would sit behind a certain group of ladies that had strong perfumes, and those things, they would almost make me sick to my stomach, and often I would end up with a headache. I never knew back at that time that these things, were leading to the headaches, but but they did. Now, later in life, I recognized those as triggers for my headaches. Now, not only perfumes, but things like sulfur. When you travel by car, for example, and you're in the state of Georgia and you cross into Florida, there are sulfur smells. And those sulfur smells, if you're not used to them, I mean, if you live in Florida, you don't even notice them. But if you don't, they can trigger migraines. Now, more recently, I had a reason I needed to buy a wedge pillow so that I could sleep with my chest and my head elevated. Um, and that pillow had a really strong smell to it. It's not that the smell to me was bad as far as, the flavor of the smell. It's just that I couldn't stand it. I couldn't breathe. It made my lungs close up, caused an asthma attack, which in turn could lead to a migraine. Um, so smells have multiple effects on people. Um, so you need to figure out if smells are a trigger for your migraines. They can be triggers for asthma. They can be triggers for migraines. Um, Even some food smells um, can be strong triggers for people. Um, Growing up, there were certain vegetables. I mean, this may not be a migraine trigger, but my mother could always drive me out of the house by cooking cabbage or Brussels sprouts. But that's not a migraine trigger. That's a gag trigger for me. But anyway, so let's move on. Um, we're talking about the pain scale, and this came up because I had a discussion with somebody on the Migraine Buddy Group page. Um, Migraine International Patients Perspective is kind of a spin-off of the Migraine Buddy Group. The Migraine Buddy Group is a Facebook page that has over 1,250 members, and that group initially was supposed to be a group to support the Migraine Buddy app. I've been a big fan of the Migraine Buddy app for at least 5 years. And so initially, I thought that that app was going to, I was going to support that app with the page, but the page turned out to be, because of the users of the group, to be more of a migraine support group rather than an app support group. So here we are 4 years later with over 1,200 members in 30 countries in a support group. So we started this YouTube group to spread our influence, I guess you could say, beyond just the Facebook group, and help people all across the world with our brand of help. So in our discussion today, we're going to talk about the pain scale. Okay? Now, the pain scale, to make it simple, it's going to be something that you have to determine for yourself, but I wanted to give a little help. Okay? So we're going to go through this one step at a time. So basically, when you talk about a 1 through 10, if you're talking about a 1, you're aware that a headache is coming. Okay, there's nothing really wrong, but you're aware that you think there might be a headache on the way. A number 2, you're getting a little distracted and the headache is more apparent. Maybe there's a little bit of pressure or just a little bit of more awareness than before. Number 3, things are bothering you a little bit more, but you're coping. Maybe you're getting a little overtired or hungry. And maybe it's the emotional equivalent of a headache, but it's not. It hasn't slowed you down yet. You're just becoming, acutely aware that it's there. It's just starting to bother you a little bit. And when it starts to get to 4, today's starting to be a little bit of a bad day, or maybe there's a few bad days, but you're still able to get through it. But you're starting to be a little more gentle with yourself. You're starting to do some self-care strategies. You're starting to drink more water because you're aware that it's coming on. Maybe you're drinking a little extra water. Maybe you're thinking about getting an ice pack, but you haven't done that quite yet. So a 5, you're getting up there and it's starting to impact your daily life. Things are becoming more difficult. You're not wanting to walk so much. You're not wanting to climb stairs. Maybe at this point, maybe you should talk to your doctor, or think about your meds, your Tylenol, your Excedrin, whatever it is that you take. Maybe at this time, it's starting to get where your medicine is something that you should reach for. When we get to a 6, things you usually do, they're starting to get harder to do. And this starts to get into your mental health. Even your impulsive and compulsive thoughts, they're starting to get hard to deal with. It starts to get into your ability to concentrate. So your regular work, your regular routine is starting to be difficult to do. So when you get into a 7, you're avoiding things that make you more distressed because they make it worse. You know, when you get to a 7, it's starting to get serious. You know, a 7, you're wanting to sit down, you're wanting to get that ice pack. You're definitely in abortive medication areas. If you haven't already taken them, it's time. If you haven't already gotten your ice pack, it's time. You know, a 7 is time to go lay down on the couch, put the ice pack, turn the lights off, turn the sound down on the TV. It is, you've entered into the severe pain level. Okay. This is the time to have somebody watch the kids. Time to let them know that it's time to be quiet and leave you alone. When you get to an 8, and you know, it's kind of hard to tell the difference between a 7 and an 8 because it's already pretty bad. At an 8, you can't handle your struggles anymore. You might have issues sleeping, eating, doing any kind of socializing. You know, forget doing any work or studying. It's affecting your mental health and almost every part of your life at this point. You know, you're pretty much a zombie at an 8. Okay. So here's where the rub is. I think a lot of people, when they get to 8, they're already considering it a 10. Okay, because it's hurting pretty bad. And a lot of people get to an 8 and they say, oh, I have a 10 headache. You don't. Okay. An 8 is miserable. But you're not even touching a 10. Okay. A number 9 is you're at a critical point. You aren't functioning anymore. You need urgent help. You may be at risk to yourself or others if you're left untreated. Okay? I can't make this serious enough, folks. If you get to the point where you are losing the ability to communicate, you are losing the ability to get up and go to the bathroom, if you're at an 8 or a 9 and you start to become nauseous or you are vomiting uncontrollably, I thank the Lord every day that my migraines, that I don't have that symptom. Fortunately, I don't let my stomach get that empty. But, and you know, I guess that's just me. But it's never been something that I've had to deal with too much. When I was a younger person, I did. And I think that's, when I was younger, that was a part of my migraines. I was undiagnosed, and I did that when I was younger. But as an adult, I have not had to deal with the nausea and the vomiting. And I thank God every day for that. But when you get to a 9, and keep in mind, folks, when we start getting that kind of pain where your head is either throbbing or you've got this severe pain running through your temples and on the side of your head, and it's so crushing that you can't open your eyes, that you're holding your head and you can't stand the light, and you can't verbalize to anybody other than just moan and curl up in the fetal position, either in the couch or the bed or wherever you are. you're at risk of stroke. Okay, we are, as migraine sufferers, at risk of stroke. You get that kind of pressure in your head, there's a very real risk of stroke because of the pressure. So you need to be really cognizant of that. And the last thing is a 10. The worst mental and emotional distress possible. You can no longer care for yourself. You can't imagine things getting worse. Contact a crisis line immediately. They're talking about in the United States, that's 911. Contact emergency services. I will describe to you the 3 times that I've called for emergency services where I'd had to be hospitalized for a level 10. The first time, my wife had gone to work, and all I know is that the pain was so excruciating, the only function I could muster was, fortunately, my cell phone was within reach, and all I could do was find her contact and hit send. And I don't know what I said. I remember hearing her voice say, "Stefan, do you have a headache?" And I said, "Uh-huh." "And you need me to come?" I said, "Uh-huh." She said, "I'm on my way." In retrospect, she probably should have called an ambulance. But she told me later that I tried to tell her something and it came out as gibberish. Now, that gibberish was because my brain was so crushed with pain that I could not speak in the English language. So, folks, a level 10, if you can communicate and you can talk clearly, you don't have a level 10. I'm sorry, I don't care how much experience you have with migraines. You can tell me up and down, "Oh, I've got a level 10. You don't have a level 10. You might have an 8. But if you're standing up and you're talking, it's not a 10. If you have a level 10, you need to be in the emergency room, getting an IV, getting tramadol or one of those other cocktails, because you're in immediate danger. So, folks, I can't stress this enough. When you get that type of pain, reach out for emergency services. So, I don't say this to be mean or contradictory or authoritative or anything like that. But think about your pain scales and, look up some of these. All you need to do is put migraine pain scale into Google, and they will have all kinds of charts like this. This is simple mental pain scale, and this was put out by the Grace fullpatient.wordpress.com. And it's the best one that I found, and I'm sure you can find it. But it's very descriptive, and I'm glad you guys watched. And so we're going to get out of here. I ran a little long today. Let me see. Bear with me 1 second, and then we'll get out of here. Our topic next week on the show will be, how do we deal with the people that don't understand our migraines? And that will be next Wednesday. And I hope you guys will join us for that. And hopefully we will have a guest next week for that. And I look forward to talking with all of you next week on Migraine International Patient's Perspective.